We have a special guest, guys, and let me tell you why. Because he comes all the way from the far, far away place of LinkedIn, right? And so we are going to come on here and talk about some of these amazing things. I connected with him. He had me on his podcast, which was also amazing. And so now he gets to come on my side of the world in Facebook and be on the other side of my camera. And let's see how he does on this side of the world. So I'm going to introduce you guys to Jesus McDonald, my good friend from LinkedIn. He's been with me from day one on LinkedIn, really. When I started really using my LinkedIn, I think between Anita, Sam, you, I can like remember them because they're like my five staple friends on LinkedIn that I
Uh-huh.
started out my LinkedIn journey with. So welcome to Facebook. Welcome to Small Talk.
I feel like I'm at the Facebook headquarters or something right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, we
Thanks.
create the experience.
Thanks for having me, Talisha. Definitely. This is my first Facebook Live, to be honest. And yeah, I hardly spend time in Facebook. I mean, I post things about my son, right? Um, Dustin is my son. He's 2.5 years old right now. He's into copying everything I do, right? So now he's like, Dada, sit down, listen. I'm like, wow. So I appreciate it. And I just love giving it. So I appreciate you being on my show and obviously love being on your show right now. And wow, your intro was phenomenal too. I felt like there's a full video production company right now.
Coming from the web design guy, I feel pretty accomplished. Okay, because let me tell you, it's a one woman show over here. So, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so Jesus McDonald, I'm the founder and CEO of GRM Web Marketing, which is a website design and development company that solely focuses on WordPress websites. We've been doing it since 2014, and it's been picking up traction, and we've been blessed, successful ever since then. And what we do is design, development, and we do ongoing website maintenance for small to mid-sized companies to keep their websites up to date and running properly.
Love, love, love. And so, what I thought would make the best experience here is because not many people are familiar with WordPress. I mean,
Mhm.
the ones that people always talk about are the ones that we hear on TV, which is Wix and Squarespace. But
Right.
WordPress is like, I gave this analogy and I actually got to record it with someone else, but where I said WordPress is like building your dream house
Mm.
and Wix and Squarespace is like rental space, it really is in that comparison. But before we get into
Wow.
the technicalities of WordPress and your web design mastery, I want to talk a little bit about why you chose to plant your feet in the LinkedIn ground.
Why I started with LinkedIn. So my ideal clients, which are computer software and tech companies, software and tech companies, um, it's usually a VP of marketing or a director of marketing, sometimes the CMO, depending how big the company is. They're living on LinkedIn. So I go with where my ideal clients are. And also I have a digital marketing background. I've been doing marketing for over 17 years. So for me, I spend a lot of time in the B2B space. So Twitter and LinkedIn are where I spend most of my days. Now, obviously, LinkedIn the most. So I've done digital marketing for other companies in the B2B space on LinkedIn. So I've just built up my own network of connections there over time. And I've been also following some LinkedIn influencers and have just been motivated to like take on challenges. Like I do daily posting now on LinkedIn. Um, and that's, because I was inspired by Sam Moss, who is also another website guy on LinkedIn. And he's been doing it way longer than I have, right? And he has a way bigger following than me. But to me, I'm like, wow, I've been seeing a lot of growth by using LinkedIn and posting every day. And when I mean by using LinkedIn, I mean that specifically posting every day, because to me, it was a way to find my voice with posting. At the same time, it was always staying in front of my audience too, which is really cool. And I just provide valuable, insightful information. Sometimes it's just practicals and things that you can do on your own. You don't really need to hire me or anyone else. Like, I just love giving it, like I meant.
Yeah. So I'll share our connection story because I think it's pretty interesting. So you
Hmm.
mentioned Sam Moss, and Sam posted a little cute picture of his new baby girl. And I
Today?
commented, no, this day, back then.
Oh, back then, how we got connected. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Sorry.
And so I commented on this picture, and I guess Jesus loved what I had said because he connected with me.
Right.
And then this was not too long ago, really, right when I was doing the Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week. Because then a couple weeks later, I was like, I think you should do this with me. I think it'll be fun to do this together. Um, and you graciously said yes, not even knowing who the hell I am. And we got on a call and it was amazing. Unfortunately, time did not permit. So we weren't able to collaborate on that
Yeah.
specific idea. But the friendship lasted. And then we get into 2021 and I wind up on Hey Sisters podcast. And then he winds up on Small Talk. Short
Right.
story, right? But what I love about LinkedIn, and I think people don't recognize, is the power of the engagement on LinkedIn. Because just because I commented on Sam Moss's picture, it created some interest for you, and that turned into this connection, which is
Hmm.
something I always say often. Don't worry about the person in front of you. Be
Mm.
more focus on the person behind them, because you just never know. They
Right.
are the connectors for the people that you really need. And so I love that. But so I wonder, I hear you said LinkedIn offers you some B2B. Do you and I know you have a Facebook page here, which you did say you post
Hmm.
more about your family. You are on Instagram, but are you finding that because you're focusing on LinkedIn that you're getting what you need from that space?
I'm getting what I need from that space. It also helps with my brand tremendously too. Um, yeah, to be real too, like we had all the company pages like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatnot for JRM web marketing. And we were posting frequently. And I think the turning point where I started seeing significant growth was when I started personal branding myself.
Mm.
And when I went to that personal branding myself, it brought more leads and more customers to the company than just the company pages alone. And so we had a pivot. And this was all last year when I started my podcast in when July or August of 2020. And it all started because I started the podcast and I'm like, okay, well, I got to start a Facebook page. I got to start Instagram page. So my Facebook page and then my Instagram page is brand new. I don't have a lot of following. I barely post on it and everything. So I'm brand new, but I ended up like creating my own pages, personal pages, um, just so I can have my own and separate myself from the company pages. I still bring traffic to the company page, obviously, but it's just that was my turning point on why I use the Facebook and Instagram page.
No, I love what you're saying, because I think a lot of us entrepreneurs, we want to disassociate ourselves from our business so much, but we don't
Right.
understand that it will hurt. It hurts when you do that,
Hmm.
because people don't buy from businesses, they buy from people. And I know that's so cliche, and we're
Hmm.
always saying that, but it is the truest statement ever. People don't
Right.
buy from businesses, they buy from people. And if they
Hmm.
can't attach a person to the business, it's going to be a long draw before they'll start purchasing anything from that business. So I
Right.
wonder, did something happen to make you turn and say, I need to start personal branding myself? Or was this just something that you said, I can't keep avoiding it too much, I just got to do it?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it all started with podcasting. When I started podcasting, I started seeing other like people like Gary Vee and other people in the game that are doing it. And I noticed that they all had their own, separate website aside from, their company website. And then to me, it was like, okay, as a website guy, I'm like, well, what's the motive behind creating my own website and branding? And I did buy my JesusMcDonald.com domain, but I didn't use it on purpose though. It's still there on GoDaddy. And the reason why I didn't use it because I'm like, maybe eventually I will, but my whole purpose is like to drive traffic to JRM Web Marketing, which is the company page, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's more preference. There's no right or wrong. Some people are fine with having, their own URL, which is great. But what is the purpose behind that if you have your own website, right? For me, if I was going to create my own website, it would still be to like push traffic to my company URL, which is jrmwebmarketing.com, right? But then to me, I was like, I could just create another site page on jrmwebmarketing.com /Jesus.McDonald or Jesus-McDonald, right? So for me, I'm like, I can just do that. It's the same way. Now people like Google search me as Jesus McDonald, JR My marketing page comes up, which is about Jesus McDonald, right? So for me, I know I'm getting too technical in the ways and details,
No,
but
we're definitely gonna chop that down into bite-sized pieces because I think what you're saying I understand, but
Mhm.
we need to break that part down so that everybody else can understand.
Let's do it.
Because what you're saying is very, very. It's like a nugget. It's really a huge nugget what you're saying, and I'm so excited that you're even saying it because I know that it is life changing what you're saying right now because
Mm,
that is what you're saying is exactly how you should integrate your personal brand with your business, right?
mhm.
Because I meet you on the side of the street or wherever. Right now, it's like the side of LinkedIn, right?
Right.
And so I meet you scrolling around in LinkedIn traffic, and I'm like, "Hey, Suze, how are you?" You're
Right.
not gonna. Your first point of contact is not to be like, "Oh, hi, my name is JRM Marketing."
No.
You're not gonna say that. So it's really the only thing I have after connecting with you is your name. That's all
Correct.
I got.
Right.
Maybe a phone number if the conversation that we had in passing was really, really good.
Mhm.
But most people will take your name and then Google you.
Mhm.
So if your name is not attached to your business, people will never find out what you do because, we
Exactly.
don't go around pitching ourselves 92% of the time. So there's not
Right.
much opportunity to share what you do with people. The way people find out what you do is when they go and do their research.
Mhm.
So what you're saying
Totally.
is so valuable, but we are going to break that down in the second half of this conversation because I heard you say this word a couple times already. So, podcasting. I want to
Yes.
know, how did you go from LinkedIn to podcast or vice versa?
So I was on LinkedIn already, and the podcasting became secondary. Just came to me. I have a website consultant. His name is Alex Lopez, and he was telling me. I'll give you the real story behind this. He was telling me, and I got to make sure I recall the whole story and all the details. He said one of our meetings. He said, "Jesus, why don't you start a podcast, or why don't you record our meetings and then you just upload it to a podcast? We can just start a podcast." And I'm like, I'm not going to start a podcast and record our meetings. We talk about clients in our meetings, man. We have sensitive information that we talk about. There's stuff that we strategize about and financial stuff. Like, we can't be doing that. And he's like, well, we should plan to like talk about some of the stuff because I write some of this stuff down and I implement it myself. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, I've been updating my LinkedIn profile. I've been doing this. Everything you've been telling me, like I write it down and I implement it. And I was like, that's awesome. And to me, it was more about the wildfires in California, as you guys remember all that happening. Then COVID hit, right? So then for me, then the news, it was always the small business owners that were getting hit. And it was the last straw for a lot of them, right? Because in California, you do outdoor dining, right? Because of COVID. But if you have wildfires and there's smoke in the air, ain't nobody going to do outdoor dining, right? So then you completely have to shut it or pick up, which a lot of people are not going outside, right? Because of smoke and other things like COVID and other things around here too. So again, that was the last start for a lot of businesses. It sucks when you can't control like your baby, your business. And
Yeah.
for me, I was like, that sucks. And I felt like moved, like with compassion to like do something. And I knew these small businesses, they can't afford a digital marketing expert or company or anything like that. But I was thinking, what if I provided them free, valuable content and all they had to do was just make the time to implement it? It's on them to make the time
Yeah.
to implement it. And anything they do, whether it's how to claim your Google My Business listing, or if you have a Google My Business listing, how do you optimize your Google My Business listing? If they make time to watch one of my videos and implement it, they'll have significant traffic where people are calling them, ordering, doing whatever, right? So for me, I was like, I called Alex. I said, "Hey, let's start the podcast. I already have some ideas." And my whole goal was to do it for the small business owners. I got nothing in return. It was just to give, right? I
Yeah.
said, let's do it on my breaks, on my lunches, when I can, when I'm picking up my son from daycare. Like, let's just do it when I can. All I need is a mic, and that's it, right? So I got a professional microphone. I got the Yeti, and we started recording, right? And then it became videos, so YouTube, podcasting, and we started talking about different topics to where I never would have imagined that my whole goal was small business owners and supporting them during this difficult time, that it would evolve to becoming something for small, like business owners, to marketing professionals also coming onto the show, dropping knowledge.
Are you
So,
kidding?
yeah, so
Wait,
everyone is
I
like,
want to pause you right here because one, we have a question, so that's number one. But I want to say something about your dropping bombs on your show. So
mhm,
Selena wants to know, where can we find these videos?
YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you search Jesus McDonald, it would be, there's not a lot of Jesus McDonald's. I have a very unique name, so
You do.
it would be easy to find me there.
It is. And I'm going to share just a tad because I want to make sure you guys understand when Jesus says, "Oh, these marketing professionals that came on and dropped bombs," he's talking about the owner of freaking BNI.
I did have the founder and chief visionary officer Ivan Meisner on my show, and he's
What?
coming on for his second one too.
Oh, so let me just tell you. So I got in contact with Jesus. But after I invited you to come and do this thing with me, I started doing my research. I'm like, who is this guy? I know WordPress is impressive all in its own. And when you find people who are like, I'm a professional WordPresser, it's like, okay, great. I need you because you're the rarity. People
Yeah.
don't even understand how to do it. So that's one little rare gem. And then we
Hmm.
go to YouTube
Right.
and you type in Jesus McDonald and you scroll down a little bit because I like to get the origin of things. I don't like to see all the surface crap. I like to dig down deep in the pot. And I digged a little deeper and I'm like, I go to these meetings sometimes. I told you I'm always getting invited. But
Yeah,
I
they
was
have
like,
great
how the
business
hell?
networking events.
My question was, the only question that I had was, how the hell did he do that? How did that happen? Tell me how that happened.
I reached
And
out. Yeah, I reached out on LinkedIn, and Ivan has a social media manager, and the social media manager, I think, forwarded over um, my message over to Ivan's assistant, and then Ivan's assistant. I think it was perfect timing because she was probably talking to Ivan about his calendar, and it was like, let's book him, and let him know that I would love to, and the rest is history. That's what
it
ended up
is.
happening.
It's documented forever and ever, amen, in YouTube land. So that brings me to, like, I heard a few things in this story, and you haven't even completed the story because I so rudely interrupted you, but I don't want you to downplay this huge moment because I'm like, this is huge. But I heard you say, like, the idea of podcasting was not even mine. Like, it was somebody else that came and said, hey, you should do this. So
That's true. I didn't
we
even
have
think about
something
that
in
until you said
common.
that.
We have something in common because that happened to me too.
Really?
I have a girls group that I host every Friday night. It's called Girls Night In, and we get together every Friday night. But that was an accident, really, because I was on a Zoom call with one of the other girls, and it was me and another woman on the Zoom call. And she was like, we should do this every week. And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, absolutely not. I don't
You
want to
shut
do
her
this.
down.
No, I didn't. I mean, I didn't shut her down because this is my first time ever meeting her,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
she was
yeah.
like, "We should do this every week." But in my mind, I was like, no, no, no." And then I started
Right.
thinking about it. I was like, I think, I'm in all of these Facebook groups that are women, but I don't ever get to say anything, and they barely let me post anything. It's like it's less about me and more about them. So maybe we can create a space that's more about us.
Mm. That's
So
awesome.
we created the space. This was not an idea of someone else, but it was birthed from an experience,
Right.
just like, with your thing with the wildfires. And I was saying to myself, here, I had a wildfire experience right here on Facebook where there was just an overwhelm of complaining about small business support.
Mm.
And I was like, this can't be real. My disbelief is why small talk is a thing, because I'm like, I got to get some of these small business owners on here and tell me
Right.
about this thing because I don't understand. I'm a part of this community
Right.
and I don't have this experience. So my curiosity really killed the cat here and created this thing. But what a blessing, because
Hmm.
it's really helped a lot of people.
And I
I've
think,
gotten messages just like yourself to say,
right.
you know, this has really helped me. So
Mm.
go ahead, tell us more.
No, I mean, it's real too, and that is what makes it all worth it, right? Is when people reach out and they're like, "Hey, your content is so valuable on LinkedIn. Thank you. Hey, I watched your YouTube videos, and I didn't even know that I didn't even have a Google My Business listing. I didn't even know that I was missing all these opportunities for growth because I didn't optimize my Google My Business listing." I'm like, well, yeah, Google's technology, so it's always changing every day. So you got to be on top of it, right? Or even like website tips, things you can do on your own, right? Or what your website developer should be doing for you, right? So you actually get service from them. So just things like that. But you're right. And I think it hits on another good point too, is like, listen to your friends, listen to your industry partners, your partnerships that you have. If they said, "Hey, you should try this," like, seriously consider it, right? Because I think as entrepreneurs, we can easily be overwhelmed and have a lot of to-dos, and we're wearing multiple hats in our businesses, right? But if there's an opportunity that we can't see, but somebody else can see and have vision for us, that's going to help a lot of other people. Definitely consider it and take a leap of faith and try it out. Right? It doesn't have to be like a commitment for like 5 years or anything like that. But I mean, you should definitely try it out. And I think the thing that I'm seeing is the more we are digging into seeing the need for entrepreneurs, for marketing professionals, for whatever, right? We start seeing like we can go in different avenues, specific niches, right? Hit on hot topics as well too, right? So I like that because you're right. It was our friends that pretty much suggested it, and we used our strengths because our friends see our strengths, and we leaned on our strengths, and here we are.
Here we are, right? And
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of networking, honestly. um well, like I said in the beginning, finding that person, not the person in front of you, but the one behind you, because the one behind you probably has the mastermind ideas and those
Hmm.
good tips and things that will definitely elevate you to the next level. And sometimes we just get so focused on the person that's standing right in front of us that we don't even hear what the person behind them has to say. And
Mm,
usually the person behind them, what they're saying is more valuable, honestly.
mm.
So,
I like that.
getting into your actual business of WordPress, what made you pick WordPress over like Wix and Squarespace? Because, those are kind of like plug and play moments, lot less work, I presume. So tell me, what was your fascination with WordPress?
Yeah. So just to be clear, too, like I think Wix, Wibbly, Squarespace, those types of softwares that are like plug and play, drag and drop, super easy. You don't need a no code or anything like that. Um, I'm not against them because I'm in WordPress and I'm a WordPress guy, but they do have limitations when it comes to creativity. That's a fact, right? When you compare it to WordPress and other big content management platforms, and that's what they're called. They call it a CMS, content management system. Now, to me, I think it's great for freelancers if they do Squarespace. And it's great for like a small business that just needs like a one pager or a 5 pager that just wants something simple. They're okay with the Squarespace templates. They're not really tripping over it not being super custom, right? And but I do think there's growing pains. There's a point in a business where you kind of need to grow the website because the business is growing. And now more than ever, people are relying on the internet, which means your online presence matters now more than ever too, right? Because this whole COVID situation. So if your business is growing and digital is where you're trying to go with it, then, or even if you do half your business, I mean, more the people are doing it more than half right now online, then
Yeah.
consider something that's more robust and more scalable like WordPress. So I choose WordPress specifically because of what I just said. It's robust, it's scalable. I have no limitations when it comes to creativity. The sky's the limit, and I love it. And I can make a back end for my clients that is just like Squarespace. It's just as easy, right? And so, but WordPress doesn't advertise like that. Where the way WordPress advertises is more like it's scalable, it's robust. You can just customize anything you want because it's true. There's no limitations. You can install plugins. You can do so many things when it comes to WordPress. You have a lot more SEO features, which is search engine optimization to help you rank on Google, Yahoo, Bing, all those search engines, right? And it's big in that way. So for me, when it came to what platform do I want to focus on, it was a no-brainer to me because WordPress is like one of the top 3 for content management systems. And that's where I went with. And then we have systems in place that make sure that the websites, if they go down, we get alerted. We just have a lot of things in place, security layers, you name it, right? Now,
Yeah.
the one thing too that Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly doesn't really advertise and tell you, and I get why, because they hook you to get in, right? But they don't really say, hey, business owner or entrepreneur or marketing professional, if you have a marketing professional working for you, it's actually going to take a lot of your time, even if you don't know code. You're going to have to invest a lot of time. So you're going to have to add a marketing or a website design hat on top of your 16 hats. Like
Yeah.
they don't tell you that, right? You kind of have to go through the experience to and then hit a wall and then ask for help, right?
Yeah.
And I wish they were more upfront about that stuff because what's easy to you may not be easy for me, right? As an
True.
example. So I think that's a big thing to consider. I would say if anyone is looking to redesign their website or if they're looking to, create a website from scratch, I would say do research. A ton of YouTube videos out there. WordPress versus Wix. I actually have a blog post about that. Why I choose WordPress over Wix every single time. That is the exact title of my post.
Well, I love what you're saying because that brings us right back to the very opening statement, which is WordPress is like building a dream house. You get to
Mhm.
pick the foundation. You get to discover
Yes,
how many rooms you want, how many bathrooms, what do the walls look like, how tall is the roof, are
mhm.
there vanity window? Like there's lots of things that you can do
Totally.
where Wix and Weebly and Squarespace it's already there. It's that prefabricated house that you
Mhm.
could go in and you could paint the walls. You could probably knock down a wall if you need to, but you can't
Mm.
really change the house.
I will give you
You can't
another analogy. I'll give you another
yeah.
analogy, Talisha. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No.
cut you off and stuff. It just triggered me in my mind. So
Oh, you're triggered.
not that kind of trigger, but you know what I mean. So it came to my mind that I would use the analogy of a house, and just leave it at a house, right? So Wix, Wibbly, Squarespace is like buying a 1-bedroom house, say with 1 acre
Mm,
or 5 acres of land, right?
mm,
Now, if you want to upgrade, you have to move, right? You can't build
yeah,
upon it. Now, with the WordPress, it's more like exactly what you said. We're starting from scratch. Here's the foundation. Here's the concrete. How many bedrooms do you want? Like, oh, I get to choose? Yeah, right? The only thing limiting you is your budget.
yeah,
So, what can you afford? That's what the conversation becomes, right? Where Squarespace, Wix, and Wibbly doesn't matter what your budget is. We're only going to give you a 1-bedroom house. So they automatically cap you at like that.
she said not the 1 bedroom with children, okay? Because
Oh
yeah, that's
gosh,
cramped.
no.
That's cramped. So, and we see that. We really do see that analogy is so good because that is real. We see people with those 1 page websites and they're trying to cram all their whole business idea on the 1 pager. And you
Mm,
need space to move. I need space to move. As a
right.
visitor in your house, I don't want to sit on your lap in the couch, right? I need space.
Yeah.
So WordPress really is that, it's that idea that you could start with 1 bedroom, but if you want to add another one, you can. And right, the budget is up to you, but you don't have to
Mhm.
start with this huge budget. And I believe
Right.
that people think that you got to come in with all these thousands of dollars, but you can start with the landing page, and then
Right.
as your business grows, you have room to grow. So now you can add another page to that, or add a sales page, or add some more
Right.
components. You can add,
We
there's
can build
room for
on that
additions.
foundation.
Yes. So I love making that comparison to the house because it's the most practical thing. I think everybody wants to have a dream home, but
Mhm.
I feel like for entrepreneurs, the thing that we probably get stuck on the most is, what is the dream?
Right.
So Squarespace and Wix, although those are great websites to begin,
They are.
they won't get you to the dream. They're you And the problem with moving is that you gotta pack,
Mm,
and you gotta organize, and you gotta clean. And there's so much time
there is.
in a
I had a
move.
I had a client that said he was on Squarespace and he said, "I can't add a 6th tab." I'm like, "You mean like an extra tab to your site?" He's like, "No. Squarespace said that I have to create a whole new template because I gotta leave this template, go to another one." I'm like, "Do you have time for that?" That's why I'm talking to you, Jesus. Literally. And I'm like, so that won't happen with WordPress ever. But I also want to mention something else, right? Because that's one frustrating headache right there, right? Is with those plug and plays, is also make sure that you're getting an experienced website developer. Like cheap makes sense because we have a lot of expenses as entrepreneurs, but don't go cheap with something that's going to represent your business, your reputation online, which is where everyone's at right now. Go cheap with something else that people don't know in the operations side about, right? But don't go cheap with something that's visible to the public, like a website. When you hire an inexperienced website developer, you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
If you go to Fiverr, if you go to Upwork, these freelancer sites, and I'm not saying freelancers are bad, but you're taking a risk at the same time, right? And you get these junior developers that are just trying to add another project to their resume. So you become a guinea pig to them and they don't follow best
Mm.
practices and they'll take anything for dirt cheap, right? Because they're building up their experience. But here's the thing, if they build on a foundation that's not solid, the house is going to collapse. It is.
Mm.
And you might get hacked because there's a lot of vulnerabilities there. And now hackers are not stupid. What they have is some automated software that they're asleep and they just hit start button and it starts poking at people's websites
Mm.
for vulnerabilities, and they
So
infect it
those
with
are things
malware.
that here's the thing, and I keep with the house analogy, or even, we get these nice plots of land, which
Mhm.
is that .com, right? And
Mhm.
man, you got a good deal, because I got a couple .coms that I paid 99 cents for. That is a good deal on some damn land, if I tell you
Mhm.
what, right?
Mhm.
So you buy this nice land and you build a shack on it, a
Yeah.
she shed. And it's like, you're wasting the land, for one. You're not utilizing all the space that you just purchased.
Right.
And then, because you're in the middle of nowhere, there's no protection. This shack that you've built on your land offers you no bulletproof walls,
Mhm.
and these hoodlums come and shoot up your shack.
Mhm.
So like, honestly, and that is web. That is the world wide web. It is the
Right.
world that we live in, where it is so important to protect your space.
Right.
And, I'm not going to buy a home and not put ADP in it, especially if I bought this expensive land and
Mm.
I got it decked out with remote windows and all this fog proof stuff. I'm not going to leave my house uncovered,
Right.
honestly. And so, I mean, before we think about purchasing the domain, think about what type of house you want to build on that land. Because if you
Right.
can't figure out the type of home that you want, maybe the land you shouldn't buy the land yet.
Right. And even
Or
if oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I
I
was
didn't mean
gonna
to
say,
cut you off.
or buy the land and sit on it, like me. I have real
Mm.
estate just sitting in my queue. It's really in my GoDaddy box, and it's just
Mhm.
waiting because I'm not ready to build. And
Right.
when I'm ready to build, I'll go the expensive route, because I'm a fancy girl and I like nice things. But I'm gonna build me my dream home on that .com land.
I love that. And I was going to say that sometimes, there's entrepreneurs that are tuning into the show and they're like, crap, Jesus, you're right. And what do I do now? Because I don't love my website. I didn't like the website developer. They suck. I couldn't even get in contact with them. Lack of responsiveness in their communication, right? So most entrepreneurs are bootstrapped right now, right? Because it's like, dang, I just threw down like thousands of dollars for redesign. So it doesn't mean automatically that you need a redesign now,
Yeah.
right? Just get website maintenance to keep the website up to date and running properly, to make sure that when those issues come up, it doesn't take down the site or break the site, or an image doesn't even upload anymore on the site. Like, those basic maintenance can save you a ton of money in the long run, where you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for a redesign. So that's something to consider for entrepreneurs that are thinking about, hey, it's been like 2, 5, 10 years since I did a redesign. It's about time that I do that. Consider a maintenance plan first to see what can get done in the maintenance plan, and what should be considered, and when and how much for a redesign.
Yeah, I love what you're talking about here, because even in our homes, they're real fancy, but we got to change the plumbing every now and again. We
Hmm.
got to upgrade our electrical. There's things that need to be done, which is why I don't ever want to own a home. I can't even commit to a website. But it's expensive, right? But it's an investment. And
Right.
the more you pour into it, the more you get out of it, honestly, because if
Hmm.
it's functional and it works properly, people enjoy the experience when they come over for your parties at your
Right.
website, because that's what it should be. It should be a party. Every time I tap into you, I should feel like you're just hosting a welcome party every single
Right.
time. And so I love that we're talking about the website, but you did speak about Google My Business, which is kind of like the cheap way to kind of get your online presence up, because to have a Google My Business, it doesn't cost much. It's SEO friendly, so you
So
can get
Google My
seen in place.
Business, yeah, Google My Business is free actually.
Yeah.
There is no cost to it. It's free. I would take advantage of that ASAP if you're not on Google My Business. And by the way, a lot of small businesses focus on Yelp. My opinion, like Yelp sucks as a company. Sure, you get some traffic in here and there, but it's hard to get reviews that are really fake. And the support, they really sell you more than support you. So they try to upsell you so much. They're just like sharks, right? But the Google My Business, like those are your customers legit. So if you sent a link to a customer and they fill it out, a 5-star review, Google's going to post it. They're not going to question you, is this a legit customer or not, or anything like that, which that's what Yelp does because of their algorithm. It's very strict. So even if your customer did leave you a review on Yelp, they won't display it for various reasons. So I would
Yeah.
totally take advantage of Google My Business if you have a small business.
Yeah, Google My Business is a great tool, and I think more people need to know about that tool, especially if you're new in business and you don't have
Right.
if you're not web savvy, so you don't really have the skill set, because not everybody does, to build this amazing website so that people can go to you, and you don't really have that disposable income to kind of pay somebody to do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
Google My Business is a great start to get your feet wet in the real estate of the web, and see what kind of attraction. And it's also a good way to do some market research as well, because you can start testing how you show up and how people are engaging with you before you commit to buying your dream home.
Right. That's a really good
So
analogy. I like the home
I,
analogy.
it's so good, because I mean, it just makes sense. It's your .com, .net, .org, whatever dot you got, it is really like your address. And
Right.
you know it's where you will be and how people will find you. They look, everything is attached to that address, so you definitely, it is real estate in another way. And so I would love to talk about that a little bit, because we hear that websites are absolutely necessary for a
Mm-hmm.
business owner, because you know according to what everybody else is saying, Facebook can always be removed, but they've been here for 10 years. I think they're pretty secure.
Right.
And Instagram can always die, but I think Instagram is going to be here for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn's been around for about 10 plus years as well, but the buzz is, make sure you buy a website because you own it. How do you feel about that?
It's true. I mean, LinkedIn can go away tomorrow, right? And that's where I spend most of my days there, is on LinkedIn. But my website isn't going to go away unless I choose not to pay for hosting and a lot of other things, right? I have more control over it, is what I'm trying to say. I would say website plus an email newsletter. That's the route to go, because if you think about it, my audience on LinkedIn is like my fan base, right? Those are the audience that I have, right? Now, for me, if I have a website and an email newsletter, like nothing really happens to my audience. They don't go away if something happens to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, right? So you're able to do email marketing with a newsletter, but at the same time with the website, again, it's good for organic and SEO. So I can post blogs on there. I can post news updates, anything on there, right? It doesn't go away. It gives you actually more um, opportunities to write text for SEO, for each blog post, for the site pages. You have SEO opportunities there, where on LinkedIn, it just stays within the LinkedIn platform.
Yeah.
Like you don't, if you type something on Google search, like Talisha Joseph's LinkedIn post, you don't see any posts until I go into the network LinkedIn. With a website, it's public. Anyone can see it. That's why it's more valuable, because it helps you with rankings when it comes to Google search. And it also helps you with having more control over your audience. That's why a lot of people are talking about sign up for a newsletter, the newsletter, the newsletter, the newsletter. It's free, all this stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, because once you sign up, that's golden for them.
Yeah, because they get your email address. So it's like letting people come over to your house
Right.
incognito. But so I love what you're saying. And I know SEO is a really buzzing topic right now because everybody wants to be
Hmm.
SEO'd. I mean, I many moons ago used to work in a company that did SEO before I even realized what the hell it was. It was like
Hmm.
the newest thing, and now it's like the buzzword of the 20th century, SEO. So, can you tell us, or leave us with some golden nuggets on how we can optimize some of these SEO opportunities?
Yeah, I was just thinking from like an on-page SEO standpoint, like which is on-page is your website. Just make sure your homepage, about, services, contact us, those pages have the SEO title, the meta description, and I might get too technical here, but there's things called for every image, there's an image alt text. Make sure that every image has that alt text. It's basically where you describe the image to Google, and Google indexes it and reads it, which helps with ranking, right? Your image, your website, because it's all connected. And also making sure that you have technical SEO too. So, technical SEO, this is where the developer comes in, is schema, SCHEMA, schema. Basically, that is code that you put on the back of your website. And if you're on WordPress, you can install Yoast SEO, YOAST, as a plugin. And that comes with it too, some of the schema. And that's going to help with the SEO. And it breaks it down per page in the editor when you go to edit, change this and that. So that's what I would recommend. And especially doing the same thing for blog posts is always make sure you have a featured image for your blog post. Make sure that you have a really catchy headline that has the keyword specifically in there. And don't force it. I mean, some people stuff the keyword like so many times in a sentence, and it's like, yeah, I don't think they considered me because I'm the reader.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
more
yeah.
they're more focused on ranking than considering how I'm going to digest it. So make sure you put yourself in the reader's shoes because that's more important than trying to rank on a website. Um, and but that's my tips.
I love those tips because even when we think about hashtags, right? Or,
Hmm.
or people just try to cram all these hashtags in, and then you get to the bottom and you're like, this doesn't even make sense, and it's just taking up so
Yeah.
much space, and it's crazy. But I guess in layman's term, hashtags would be the SEO quality of these specific um platforms. This is how they SEO
Hmm.
your content on each platform by
Right.
the trending hashtags that you use. So keywords. Uh, you know what? I'm getting smarter.
Another
So
tip for, but more on a LinkedIn side is if you love Instagram, you flood it with hashtags, right? LinkedIn is not the same way. I would say max 3 hashtags for LinkedIn. That's my
yeah.
tip. And the posts that work really well right now in 2021, believe it or not, I don't know why, because LinkedIn is every algorithm is different, but
Mhm.
text only. Don't add an image, don't add a video, text only with 1 hashtag or 3 hashtags. That is going to help tremendously on getting you that outreach, that reach, and engagement. I don't know why, but LinkedIn loves it that way. So if you guys are trying to be on LinkedIn, that's the way to post. I've seen a lot of people post on LinkedIn and they have 16 hashtags, and I'm like, it's not going to go anywhere.
Oh my gosh. So I always give out this tip, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong because I think I'm right, where LinkedIn kind of talks to Twitter in hashtags. So you said you use Twitter and use LinkedIn. Do you find any truth into that statement that the hashtags are kind of synced up with Twitter?
I think they're both different algorithms.
Really?
Hmm. Like, I think LinkedIn has its own algorithm that, I mean, everyone is still trying to figure it out, right? And just the same with Twitter, but I feel like more people are like going to Twitter these days. I feel like just because they're just tired of all these platforms. So
Yeah.
they just spend their time on Twitter. They're like, oh, if I can say like a one-line sentence, that's good enough kind of thing. But you
Yeah.
can just scroll like Instagram too, right?
Well, I
Um,
mean, I feel like sometimes when we think about the algorithm, we can't change. It changes all the time,
mhm,
right? Because
right.
it's technology, and technology upgrades like every 60 seconds. Something new is happening in the technological world.
Sure.
But when we talk about communication,
Mhm,
because we know, the algorithm for Instagram isn't the same as it is for Facebook, but the communication is the line of communication is there. But I do notice that when I post something on Instagram, I can feed it right into my Facebook, but I still have to come back and shift it a little bit and tweak it
mhm,
so that it matches what Facebook style is. Because the
right.
style is different, because guess what? I I will keep with this house analogy, right? And I'm sure this happens in California because I've been to California a few times. But in Florida, we have cul-de-sacs where every third house looks the same, right?
Mm,
And so we're thinking of it like that, the cul-de-sacs. But every third house looks the same. So all these platforms, to me, they all kind of look the same. YouTube,
right.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, they all look the same. It's a cul-de-sac. But
Mhm,
then when we talk about the communities that live in the cul-de-sacs, you can go from one block to the next block and it's completely different. Like,
right.
man, the way they speak, how they party, everything is completely different. So although the communication, each cul-de-sac, all of them look the same. The algorithms are a little different. Maybe the paint on the house is different, right?
Mm,
The door is different a little bit. But for the most part, they're all freaking the same. But the
mhm,
way they communicate is different.
right.
So what I'm thinking is, because I know that we have on LinkedIn, and if you're not familiar, please check it out, because if you're not on LinkedIn, you probably need to be. Um, on the side, they'll tell you like the trending hashtags, or when you go to hashtag, they'll
Mhm,
populate these trending ones.
right.
So my idea is that those are the things that are really going to grab in Twitter, because Twitter is a one liner, but LinkedIn is like a
Oh,
full page spread, like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
think so. When it comes to the hashtags, they are valuable. Having a hashtag is valuable. It's just making sure you're using it correctly too, right? And making sure it's relevant to the hashtag. Because there's people that write content, but their hashtag is not relevant to what they wrote. So as long as you do that, then yeah, it does pull from others. And it pulls from Twitter. It also throws it over to Twitter as well too. So it definitely does work in that way. And there's a lot of people that do follow the hashtags tremendously. And yeah, I think I don't really know the details specifically in the partnership that Twitter and LinkedIn have, because I know you can put your Twitter handle, like the username, on your LinkedIn profile, which a lot of people don't know about that.
yeah. So I think I don't really use my Twitter, but I know my Twitter's lit a little bit, because of the fact that I think I'm pushing information to LinkedIn. And the same way here, like once I found out that Instagram and Facebook talk to each other, I
Right.
can't figure out how to get my Facebook to talk to my Instagram, but I've mastered getting my Instagram to talk to my Facebook. So I kind of just post on Facebook or Instagram all the time, and let the that thing do its work over here, and just come in here and do a little touch ups now and again on my paint job, right?
Love it.
So let me just tell you, man, Jesus, this was the best conversation. I mean, I feel like every time we talk, it could go on forever and ever. Amen. But we
Mhm.
know that you have this cute little boy that will be rising soon, waiting for his dad. So we do not want to keep you over. But I do have my final question to ask you, and that would be, what advice would you give younger Jesus today?
Mm. I would say, dang, no one ever asked me that question.
I ask it to everyone.
Yeah. Believe it or not, and this might I mean, I'm just kind of throwing it off the top of my head right now because I was thinking about this today as I was writing a LinkedIn post, and it was around entrepreneurship. And as I reflected, I have this strong work ethic, entrepreneur mindset, heart because of my stepdad, and he's an entrepreneur himself. So I've learned, you get what you put in, right? And you work hard for it, right? And as I was reflecting, I was like thinking to myself, okay, I went to college for 4 years. Was any of it practical? No. None of it was practical in the real world. It's just something to put on my resume. And I was thinking about it. If I had to do it all over again, I don't think I would have gone to college.
Mm.
That's not a lot of people agree with that, right? But I really felt like, do I have regrets? No, because it is what made me now, and I'm where I'm at right now, right? But I don't think I would have gone to college, to be frank, because there's just it was already a struggle because I just didn't like school. I wanted to work already, and I had a lot of great marketing positions that were offered to me while I was a college student. So when I think back in the day, I'm just like, I don't think I would have gone to college. I think I would have experimented in different jobs so I can find out what I'm passionate about quicker.
Oh, that's a good one. I love that one. And I feel like that because I realized early, like after getting out of high school for me was a struggle
Hmm.
because I like to talk way more than I like to learn. So for me, I couldn't wait to graduation day so I could just get the hell out of school. So
Yeah.
you couldn't even pay me to go to college, really. So like if somebody would have said I would have wrote you a check for you to go to school, I'd be like, no, not
Yeah.
at all. So
And
I love
I
that.
would add to this too. Like there's a lot of people that feel insecure because they don't have a college degree and stuff like that. Like squash that. That means nothing. When I hire people, I don't care where they went to college or if they went to college or not. What I care about is experience and character. That's all I care about.
I love
So
it.
to me, a degree is just a degree, right? It doesn't define you. Like you have to change your way of thinking because I think the world portrays it that way. You have to go to college if you want this, if you want that, right? And that's not really true.
Absolutely. Totally agree because I feel like I couldn't agree more. The only plus I could even envision, and I can't say that I would even know for sure because I didn't go, you know, is the networking potential. Like so it will expand your network sooner because you'll be able to be in the circle of people that are going into the industry. But even in my experience today, I've spoken to a lot of college students, and
Hmm.
you know, although we think that they have something very, very unique, oh my God, they went to college, they actually feel insecure about not having the experience, which is so weird. They're like, I'm just a college student. I don't know anything about anything. And
Right.
so it's really about a mindset. And I think if we get anything from what you have shared right now, it's really about changing your mind and not thinking the way that you feel like you need to think and just think
Right.
the way you feel, and that's it. Like just be authentically you. And I know somebody's going to give me hell about that because we had a whole clubhouse room yesterday about these words, but I appreciate you spending your time with us and coming over and paying me a visit in my home here
Of
on
course.
Facebook. So, this was an amazing conversation. I don't want you to go just yet. I'm going to drop you down. I'm going to address the people and then we'll wrap up.
Let's do it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.